But first, we go to President Obama's response to 74,000 jobs being created. I hope the president doesn't try to spin this and act like things are actually getting better. Well, here's his weekly address. Let's find out. Roll it.
Yesterday, we learned that in 2013, our businesses created 2.2 million new jobs, including 87,000 last month. Our unemployment rate is the lowest it has been since October 2008. And across our broader economy, there are signs of progress. Our manufacturing and housing sectors are rebounding. Our energy, technology, and auto sectors are booming. Thanks in part to the reforms in the Affordable Care Act, health care costs now eat up less of our economy. Over the past 4 years, costs have grown at the slowest rate on record. And since I took office, we've cut our deficits by more than half.
Deficits more than half. Not even close to what he projected, by the way, $1 trillion man plus for 5 years. Then actually 4 years, pardon me. He's cut the deficit, but his lowest deficit is still 40% higher than George W. Bush's highest deficit. So a little context there. Healthcare costs have slowed because the economy has slowed. And when he talks about the unemployment number, he must think you're an idiot. He must think that you actually have had your head in the sand and you don't care about pretty much anything. Maybe he thinks you're on drugs. I don't say this to be funny. I say this because there's an attack going on the American dream, and I'm not whining about it. I've got the solutions. But you should be just as ticked and passionate about restoring the American dream and demonstrating it's quite easy. Even Captain Obvious can do it. How much of a failed record this is. Is this because you hate President Obama? Just be quiet. Have a big bowl of be quiet. Because that is ridiculous. It's juvenile and it's hurting America. Those kinds of responses. Well, you just made it. I made it because I want to reference it. The president keeps spinning things and he does not have the ingredients for an economic recovery. In fact, I believe we're going to experience harder times ahead because of the coming Obamacare bomb when it hits the rest of the folks come later this year and losing their health insurance because it was a substandard plan or because businesses look at costs and respond to things and actually they work in their own self-interest to survive. Oh, did you hear about the bailout? Yeah, we did. We covered that 2 weeks ago with Arnold Allard. You can see that for the insurance companies. The insurance companies are threatening. I'll get to that. Don't get me sidelined. Here's what I want to deal with. President Obama just made a number of statements, and 6.7%, 91 million people have left the workforce or are now no longer in the workforce. He tried to say, or excuse me, defenders tried to say this was because a lot of people have retired. But the Department of Labor, speaking of Arnold Allard, disagrees with that statement and speaks to the amount of young people dropping out of the workforce and going back to school because there are no opportunities out there. There are no jobs. 75% of the jobs created last year in the last 12 months, or excuse me, last year, 2013, were part-time jobs. But the Investors Business Daily took us through a number of stats regarding just how bad the numbers were for our president, President Barack Obama. And we can go and say that he has created net new jobs. 6.3 million have been created since Obama's recovery started in 2009, June. 13.8 million new jobs would have been created had Obama kept pace with the average of the past 10 recoveries. That's, oh, wow, 12.6. That's nearly, well, we look at that, half the jobs, over half he's behind on the average. Then we go to growth in private jobs since President Obama took office, 3.6. 43% growth in temporary jobs. Okay, so the jobs are temporary. They're part-time, as we've learned in the 75% of these. And then you have a jobless rate that is masked by people leaving the workforce, labor force participation rate that has jumped from, it's jumped 11.2 million since President Obama took office. And we have the U6 number and all that. I'm thinking, again, it's about 10.2%. If you factor in and adjust, I said 9.2%, didn't I, on Friday? For the people who've left the workforce, I'm being generous, but I'll go at 9.2%. Still, it's ridiculous. But he's claiming 6.7%. So he really thinks, hey, we got this going on, we're going. But what gets me is another part of this speech that he gave, or another part of this address. And he's entitled to spin the numbers. I'm just tired of him being a politician because he knows how to campaign. He doesn't know how to lead. And that's been made obvious by a number of years of promises and results. So don't get mad at me. Don't tell me I'm hating on Obama and this is about R's or D's. No, it's about accountability. And quite frankly, I have an obligation to tell the truth. This is nothing but truth. And if you want to believe in unicorns and fairy dust on how this thing's going to turn around, it's sad, but it's not. The ingredients are just not there. And quite frankly, I'm offended on a daily basis with the fact that the American dream's being killed, and my kids, your kids, the next generation is going to have to deal with a government that's not going to allow them to use their God-given gifts to their fullest potential. And that means more people are going to be hurt, more people are going to be in poverty, more people are going to be relying on the state, and the state's a bad daddy. So keep moving. We'll go to clip number 2. He outlined what he wanted to do in his State of the Union. This is kind of a preview of what he will be doing in the State of the Union a little later on this month. Roll it.
So we've got to keep our economy growing and make sure more Americans have the opportunity to share in that growth. We've got to keep creating jobs that offer new opportunity and make sure those jobs offer the wages and benefits that let you rebuild some security. We've got more kids to educate and families to get covered with health insurance and an immigration system to fix. And we've got to make sure this recovery leaves no one behind. So this will be a year of action. I'll keep doing everything I can to create new jobs and new opportunities for American families, with Congress or on my own, and with everyone willing to play their part. And that action should begin by extending unemployment insurance for Americans who were laid off in the recession through no fault of their own.
A quarter of Americans in their households, quarter of American households have at least one household member is unemployed. That according to the Investors Business Daily. Now, tomorrow at 24 after the hour, the first hour, we will be talking to Arnold Allard, who wrote a great piece on long-term unemployment and has given me some of the data here. We also have obviously been citing Investors Business Daily, among others. Now, the president said he'll work on his own. Did you catch that one? Yeah. We're going to talk to Hans von Spakovsky about him on his own. One of the plans is to meet with CEOs and get together and coordinate. Look, this man is central planning on steroids, and he obviously has not read a history book, economics, or foreign policy. That's, you say, Crane, you're just taking jabs. I'm speaking to the reality that if you come up with these policies and expect them to work, you really are willfully blind or just plain ignorant of history. And this is not because I want to pile on. This is because we need a strong dollar. We need to lower taxes to the degree of flattening them, or, the flat tax or the fair tax. We need to stop printing money and devaluing our currency, that going back to the strong dollar. And we need certainty in the economy from a government that knows constitutionally what it is entitled to regulate and what it is not. But I digress. Again, it's not rocket science. There are ingredients to this. Unfortunately, we are dealing with emotion, exploitation, and someone who is obviously not getting the feedback of how bad the policies are. 1/6 of the economy being taken over does not help. Tremendous uncertainty. Dan the Mancilia, I know, speaks to this on a daily basis. Financial issues, you can check that out. I encourage you to do so and lock it in. you have a real blessing right here on AFR Talk. Now, David Brooks, was on PBS, commentator and writer, and he was asked about the war on poverty. Now, here's what he had to say about the war on poverty. Roll it.
I would not say it was a total failure, and I'm a skeptic of it. There were programs that were clearly successful, the food stamp program. There were programs that were successful, but they just got the cost wrong, Medicare. So they estimated what Medicare would cost today. They were off by huge factors. There were some programs that could have been successful, but they were poorly executed. I think Head Start would count on that. And so you've got a whole bunch of programs that they tried all at once, which had some modest effect, but not the effect you wanted, and a lot of negative effects. And right after the Great Society program, there was a tremendous decay in our social fabric, tremendous rise in crime, and I would say they emphasized the economic parts of poverty. They did not emphasize, and they misunderstood some of the social capital effects, and they had unintended negative consequences. So I would say mixed blessing. I would lean a little more on the skeptical side, that it was more of a failure than a success.
Poverty rate is at 15% for the last 3 years. As the Washington Times put it, 50-year record for President Obama. That David Brooks is described, he's a writer for the New York Times, he's described as a American moderate conservative. Really? Really? This has been an absolute failure. You've incentivized dependence, you've overpromised, underdelivered, and put intergenerational theft into the system in the form of the entitlement programs that pay out on average $100,000 more than one pays in. You can't sustain this. Now, I'm bringing you the numbers because I want you to know that the American dream is not a given, especially in light of a government that is overstepped and continues to advocate for central planning and big government solutions, spending our dollars and our next generation dollars on failed policies. And that chokes off capital to go to innovation and doesn't allow people to use their God-given gifts and talents, and has people turn to the state instead of God. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Buzz Jacobs, Benghazi 9/11 documentary. Do not apologize for your success. Do not apologize for your success. And when the president said you didn't build that, remind him he didn't either. The fact is, if you're using your godly gifts to benefit others, that's awesome. And I believe you know better what to do with the dollars you earn than the government does. I believe that when we look at money that can be actually spent to help people and get them out of poverty or out of a situation like sex slavery, we can do that through our churches. We can do that through organizations that save lives, like crisis pregnancy centers. And don't ever buy into the trick, or excuse me, the game of leftists. I will say there's a Christian left in this country that has demonized success because they say it's the love of money, it'll lead to the love of money. Yeah, the love of money is wrong. Absolutely. Amen. But they're putting the focus on the dollars. Money can be good or bad. It depends on how you use it and how you make it. That's not the end all be all. But certainly we recognize that we have an obligation to use our godly gifts. I just know when I get these emails and comments that say people really saying, oh, you're just focusing on the dollars, all the dollars, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. It's all worshiping that. No, I'm not. I'm not worshiping the dollars, and I'm not worshiping the government programs that are unsustainable, that many of you who have criticized me on this, and no big deal, keep it coming. I can take it. It's good. We get to answer. See, you can't silence us, AFR Talk. The fact is, Nothing But Truth will say, you've made those idols. You've made Medicare and Social Security the idols, and then ask the ridiculous question or charge that if you want to reform them and actually make them into a place where they can sustain themselves through privatization, quite frankly, then somehow you want to end them and kill Granny. Sorry, I'm just not playing the game anymore.